cruise through the Wachau is one of the most beautiful experiences on the Danube. 36 kilometres along Austria's romantic Danube Valley. A journey to medieval castles and towns, plus religious Baroque art and idyllic nature. Our journey through the Wachau begins in Stein, one of Austria's oldest cultural landscapes. Sacred monuments recall the triumph of Catholicism over Protestantism. And more than 100 buildings provide an authentic picture of this old town. Today, the building's facades and entrances are decorated in the traditional way and show off the town's splendid Renaissance and medieval buildings. Here, the past is so vibrant that it's like entering into a fairy tale. The Parish Church of St. Nicholas was built in the 15th century and contains works by Krems. A medieval rock fountain is located on a steep path that extends behind the church on a towering cliff that leads to numerous other buildings. Here, a second church rises almost protectively, the Frauenberg Church. On the top floor of the mighty tower was a fireguard's lodge that had a good view of the buildings below. Today, the fortified town of Stein is still exited by the imposing Krems gate, which for centuries protected the townsfolk from hostilities. Past the Cartoon Museum, the route leads to Krems. Krems resembles a medieval city. The wrought iron signs of middle-class dwellings of different building epochs still shine out today in century-old splendour. Uphill, stone fountains and fine buildings, and a small train that appears everywhere. A stroll through the narrow streets of the old town passes Italian-looking city palaces, whose well-preserved sgraffiti and stucco work recalls the prosperity of yesteryear. Krems is like a medieval city, reminiscent of a magnificent Hollywood movie. There are indications that from 1284, a Mary Church existed on the mountain slopes. The Puritan Church, also known as the Frauenberg Church, is the oldest in Krems. Scenes on the external walls unite with the piety of the local population. This Gothic church was built on the ruins of a Romanesque church. The interior architecture contains Baroque furnishings. The high altar is an 18th century masterpiece. Krems is a living history of an unrivaled centuries-old trade route between west and east. We travel upriver and leave the gateway to the Wachau, Krems and Stein behind. Next, a Wachau landmark. The view from the river is particularly scenic. A jetty leads to a wall from where a gate and steps provide access to the old town. Dürnstein, a place with a long history and unique appearance. A small medieval town of both legend and world renown. The remarkable Augustinian Canon Monastery was founded in 1440. Its Baroque architecture created by Jacob Prandtauer. Here, Provost Hieronymus Übelbacher realized his ideas. He acted like a Baroque prince and had great artists working for him. With a globe as tabernacle, a golden light above the altar, sacred figures and a magnificent pipe organ. From the collegiate church, a passageway leads directly to a terrace on Danube Rock. Adjoining the church is a Baroque cloister with expressive figures by Johann Schmidt and an ornate fresco. A narrow staircase leads down into a crypt chapel that contains allegorical frescoes by Mispach and Pichler. A Baroque depiction of death and images of provosts guards the entrance. In the crypt, there is also a Calvarian altar with 3 crosses, and wall and ceiling frescoes decorated with illustrations of the apocalypse, as well as of mortality. In the monastery courtyard, daylight returns. Dürnstein has always been a popular settlement area. However, the Danube can suddenly be threatened with torrential floods and potentially dangerous situations. In the middle of the 11th century, the Könrings became the lords of Dürnstein, fortified the settlement, built a toll station, as well as a castle. Since the clergy was not entitled to administrate worldly sovereign rights, such as tolls and various laws, the Könrings took charge. Today, only the ruins of Könrings Castle remain above Dürnstein. Its 16th and 17th century buildings and narrow streets were adorned with Bacchanalian Baroque in the 18th century by art-minded religious leaders. Dürnstein has always been influenced by the Danube, and its history continues to be reflected within its waters. Back to the Danube. The trip continues upriver as we leave Dürnstein, from the monastery up to the knight's castle. A boat trip through the Wachau is a special highlight of every river cruise. On the banks, there's a modern stone monument of Richard the Lionheart and his minstrel knave Blondel. Slowly, our boat moves further upriver, through the ascending river valley and its picturesque settlements. Weissenkirchen has always been a centre of viniculture. In Roman times, vines were cultivated in this picturesque area due to the region's ideal growing conditions. This small village has a long and dramatic history. Its old houses and lanes are indelibly evocative of the past. In 1258 it was mentioned in a document belonging to Alberto of Kuenring. Later, monasteries cultivated vineyards. A line of houses directed towards the Danube is a captivating sight. Single-storey, multicoloured buildings with small courtyards. And in the town centre, old inns and middle-class buildings protected by a dominant fortified church. Below the church is a striking Renaissance arcade square surrounded by fortress-like ramparts. Built of brightly lit stones, the church gave this location its name. In 1531, the local people built it to protect against the invading Turks. Today, many people still visit this late Baroque church. Its mighty defensive walls managed to survive the hostilities of those perilous times. The protection offered by Weisskirchen has proven itself well. It withstood all hostilities. The Danube Valley narrows, its banks grow steeper. Further upriver on the same bank lies the small village of St. Michael that is protected by a fortified church. Mentioned for the first time in 987 AD, this was the starting point for the Christianization of the Danube Valley. In around 1500 AD, a Romanesque stone church was replaced by a late Gothic church, along with a defense system. An altar built of skulls. The church has an early Baroque interior, but its external appearance remains unchanged. Thus, the fortified church still looks as though it was built in the Middle Ages, as shown by its well-preserved wall paintings and reliefs. Shipping on the Danube was of great importance. Boats transported wine, salt, and a large variety of goods. Prosperity followed. The market town of Spitz is situated in the heart of the Wachau and is connected to the Danube steam navigation system that from 1829 made the river more accessible. A 16th century parish church is located within the town's fine market square, flanked by the old buildings of the local vine growers. Consecrated to St. Mauritius, the church dates back to late Gothic times. Its interior highlights the sacred splendour of the 17th and 18th centuries. The pulpit features putti and saints, and there's a fine pipe organ and various side altars. Spitz is picturesquely embedded within its surrounding vineyards, and the legendary Thousand Bucket Mountain is an imposing sight. From the 9th century to 1504, Spitz was a Bavarian enclave located on the Danube that was owned by the Niederaltaich Monastery and various counts. In 1242, monastic life passed over to the Bavarian dukes and resulted in various conflicts with Austrian princes. Wine brought prosperity. The wine growers had magnificent courtyards that provided security as well as comfort. Our onward journey recalls how the regular shipping on the Danube began. The first Danube steamship company was founded in Vienna in 1829 for the purpose of passenger and freight transport. In 1889, 200 steamships and 1,000 freight barges were in use. Thus, cruise traffic was also established in the Wachau, and tourism reached out into this exceptional cultural, natural landscape. From a high cliff, the 700-year-old ruin Agstein overlooks the Danube Valley. Here, the Middle Ages and its dark past reawakens. Life in the castle was hard, but religious faith was also present here. This was once the domain of the robber knights of the Kuenrings. They placed chains across the Danube in order to waylay passing ships prior to plundering them. Today, only myths and legends recall those times, as the fortress has long since fallen into decay. It was here that fierce power struggles for control of the shipping traffic on the Danube originated. The brutality of the Kuenrings was unsurpassed. Slowly, our ship approaches yet another historic landmark. The 12th century Servite Schönbühel Monastery, and next a castle built by Cavalier of Schönbüchel. Our final journey and our travels on the Danube lead to yet another historic cultural gem. The Benedictine Melk Monastery. The location of this huge yellow monastery was, up until the end of the 11th century, the site of a modest castle of the Babenberger dynasty. It is not surprising that Umberto Eco's novel Name of the Rose originated here. Because Melk is one of the most imposing monasteries in the Christian Occident. An impressive creation of European Baroque. The Emperor's staircase leads to the Emperor's wing, with a portrait gallery of numerous regents. The Viennese court was once housed here. Today, the Emperor's rooms are used as a museum, in which are exhibited a number of the monastery's much prized works of art. Collections of precious sacred art, arranged in various rooms according to epoch. Here there's also valuable bishop's attire and panel paintings with medieval representations of religious history. Next, the marble hall, which was used as a dining room for various celebrations, with frescoes and marble walls. A circular terrace connects the marble hall and library. The view over the village of Melk and a tributary of the Danube is overwhelming. A spiral staircase leads down into the Monastery Church, the centre of the monastery. The sumptuous architecture of its interior is unique, and sarcophagi with saints decorate the side altars. The frescoes and altarpieces often represent Saint Benedict and were painted by Troger, Rottmeyer and Bachmann. The pulpit was created by Peter Wiederin, son-in-law of Jacob Prandtauer. And the high altar radiates with a golden crown, angels and saints. The world-famous and highly detailed God's Fortress is of the most precious Baroque. An impressive sight. The Monastery Park, with its pavilion and rose garden, was created in 1750. The final addition to the palatial monastery complex. Over time, both secular and monastic life were augmented. The Romans had a base and settlements here, and later, Benedictine monks had a monastery above the town. Castles, ruins, ancient cities, Baroque monasteries, and viticulture. An evocative mix. The Wachau is a total experience. A wonderful melting pot of culture, nature, and history.